I would like to remind you of our accepted student reception on March 29th and April 5th. And again, if you do have any questions during the presentation, you can put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues, David, Megan, and Katherine, to introduce themselves and start tonight's presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Katherine Sieminski. I am the Interim Director of Career Development here at Framingham State.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meghan Larkin. I'm the Assistant Director for Orientation and Student Experience in the Center for Student Experience and Career Development here at Framingham. Nice to see you all.
Hi, and I'm David Restrick. I'm the Director of the Advising Center here at Framingham State.
All right, and now we're going to get into our presentation. We're going to start with David, and you can go into advising.
Thank you. So again, as I mentioned, I'm the Director of the Advising Center here at Framingham State University, and we're just going to talk a little bit about what advising is and the Advising Center here at Framingham, and what we do to help students while they're here. So as you can see here, my team, we've got Chad and Veronica, who serve as advisors in our office. And the Advising Center serves as a general resource for students on campus. So we work with students who aren't sure exactly what they want to major in. We help them explore options. We collaborate with our friends in the Career Development Center to kind of help students explore options and what they're interested in studying. And then we also advise students that are in the management and business IT program as well. The other part of what we do is we work with students when they first enter Framingham State. So for any of you who come to Framingham, in the summertime, you'll work with members of my team and some of our other advisors here at Framingham State, and we're going to basically help you register for your classes and kind of get that all sorted out during the summertime. So we help answer questions around what classes you should be taking and exploring kind of, okay, if you're going to be in a particular major, what are those requirements going to be for your program, and things of that nature, and all of that. So that's kind of what we do in the Advising Center. So how advising works, so every single student at Framingham State has an academic advisor. Think of it as maybe in high school you had a guidance counselor. In college you have an academic advisor. So that's kind of that key thing there. And they're going to be your point person that you work with through your time at Framingham State as you work through completing all of your academic requirements. So students who have not declared a major, we call them undeclared students, they're advised by a member of the Advising Center. So that would be myself, Chad, or Veronica. And as I mentioned, we work with students to kind of explore majors and help you kind of determine what you want to study. For students who know what they want to study and declare a major right away, they're assigned to an advisor within their actual department. So all of our advisors on campus are faculty members who teach you and also serve as your advisor, and they help you with understanding the requirements of your major, connecting your major to your career interests, and exploring options for what you might want to do after your graduation. And an important piece as well is they help you pick the right classes and stay on track to graduation. The other thing too is every single student at Framingham State is required to meet with their advisor before they register for classes. And so as part of that, every student is required to have a registration pin every semester. And so your advisor is going to give you that pin, kind of work with you through those classes, and then you'll go and take that information and register for your classes. So again, with selecting classes for all of the new students, when you come into Framingham State, you'll be meeting with an advisor over the summer. Most of that can be via Zoom. Some can be available for in person if you wanted to come to campus to meet with an advisor. And they're going to review those requirements with you. They're going to determine what classes you're going to need to take based on your major of interest, or if you're not sure, they're going to help explore some options for classes for you to take that allow you to explore what you might want to study. And they're going to explain and kind of show you the systems that we use to help you search and register for classes. They'll provide you with your registration pin. So once they've met with you and figured all of that out, you'll have that so you can register. And then you'll need to actually, and you can do this while meeting with your advisor, but you'll need to go in and actually register for your classes yourself in My Framingham. So just to note too, requirements to graduate at Framingham State, every single student is required to complete what we call 32 course credits. So every single one of our classes is typically 1 credit, except for some of our science classes that have labs, which are 1.25 credits. So we typically tell students you need to do at least 32 courses to graduate, which averages out to about 4 classes every semester. Students have to complete our general education requirements. So these are classes that every single student at Framingham State has to take. And so there's specific requirements, and your advisor works with you through all of that to help identify what those classes are and what options you have to fulfill those requirements. And then lastly, you have to fulfill all of the requirements for your major. And so those are going to be those very specific classes, and some of those are going to be in a sequence that you have to complete in order to graduate. And so those are kind of those key 3 things I always remind students that you need to keep track of towards graduation is, have you completed all of the number of classes you need, your general education requirements, and all of the requirements for your major. We use a bunch of tools at Framingham State as well to help us with all of this. And so these are things that students are going to need to learn about when they're here and use. And so we use a system called Starfish, where you schedule appointments with your advisor and see what their availability and kind of plan ahead. And so we use that in the summertime with all new incoming students as well. You'll get a link where you can go on there and schedule a meeting with an advisor in the summertime when it's time to register for classes in the fall. We use a system called DegreeWorks as well. And this system kind of shows you all of your requirements that you need to complete to graduate at Framingham State. So as I mentioned, those 32 credits, it shows you kind of your completion to completing your classes and all of your general education requirements and all of your major requirements. It also tells you who your assigned advisor is and their contact information. We also have a really neat tool called Student Schedule Planner that allows a student to go in and search for the specific classes that they need to take and build a schedule. And it shows you all of the options for all of your classes, the potential times, and you can kind of go through and see and look for your preferred course schedule. And then from there, you can take that into our registration system in My Framingham, which is where you go and register for classes. So those are kind of the key basics of advising at Framingham State and what we do. And you know, it might seem intimidating at first, but we want you to know that you have an advisor and we work with you through that whole process so that you kind of know, like from the very beginning, you know, these are the classes, and we give you a lot of information as you come in as students for the first time. So you have a person who's going to sit with you, kind of walk you through all of that, help you identify and help you register for your classes, and kind of teach you how that process works. So that you're set up for success at Framingham State. So with that, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to those at the end of our presentation tonight. Thank you. And now I'm going to hand it off to my colleagues.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. Just going to present here. All right, so as I mentioned before, I work in the Center for Student Experience and Career Development, and I luckily get to work alongside Katherine, which is a joy. And so you're going to hear from both of us. Our center is it's one center, but it oversees 3 major areas. So we oversee student activities, which is like clubs, organizations, programming, all of the extracurricular events that go on, as well as orientation, which I'm going to talk to you all about in more depth in a few minutes, and then career development, which Katherine will talk about. Our staff offices are in the same building. So we live in the McCarthy Student Center, which is on floor 4 and 5. You can find us. So with orientation, we really want to help ease your transition into Framingham State. We want to make sure that you can meet other new and transfer students and understand the college life and lingo just a little bit easier. So we provide actually two options for you to do that. Well, two areas you can do that. One is optional and one is your actual orientation and is required. But this just gives you a sense of FSU before you kind of get going into the semester as a full-blown student. So like I mentioned just before, the format we have is taking care of business and black and gold beginnings. So the first one is taking care of business, which is over the summer, and we help you do literally just that. We help you take care of the enrollment checklist you are given after you deposit. And so we want you to come to campus, and we invite you to come a little bit earlier too, because you can see we have previews of the residence halls available. So by end of June, early July, the residence life and housing selection process should either be happening or ended. So you should know pretty soon into the summer where you're going to be living, so you can align your taking care of business date with your residence hall preview if you so choose. And if not, you can come on a day you'd like to see any of the halls. And then on Saturday, July 6th, we actually have a meet and greet event where all students are welcome to come no matter what residence hall you're in. You can meet any of your roommates, your floor mates, your suite mates, and kind of just meet anybody else who's going to be living on campus. If you're a commuter, any of these doesn't matter. You just don't have to come early. If you're international or out of state and it's a little bit harder for you to get here in the summer for just a 2-hour session, we also have a virtual option. And registration for these actually opens in about 2 or 3 weeks in mid-March. So these will open up onto the website and you can register for whichever session you'd like. In these sessions, we take you through what the digital world looks like. So some of those tools David was just talking about, My Framingham, Starfish, DegreeWorks, we kind of bring you through what those look like and how you access them through your My Framingham portal, but also with your My Framingham login. We also allow you time to meet with people like the Advising Center, the CASA, which is Center for Academic Success and Achievement, and Disability Services, parking, police, dining, res life. You can talk to the people who kind of take care of all of the big transition stuff that come with going into college. And it's only about 2 hours, but we do provide you with a free meal. So you also get to try out all the yummy food that we're going to be serving you all the time. It's quite delicious. Their summer menu is one of my favorites. So if you come on a morning/afternoon session, you get a free lunch. If you come on an evening, you get a free dinner. But it's quite yummy either way. So that's part one, and that happens over the summer. And as you can see by the dates, we end it in July. So August is your time to take care of you before we have you come move in early or start your commuter journey early. So as you can see, our dates this year are August 31st, September 1st, and September 2nd for Black and Gold Beginning Orientation. If you're a resident student, you are moving in early on the 30th and you're staying on campus. This program will take place those 3 full days, and we'll have stuff for you to do, areas for you to check out, and it gives you a full reign of campus as well before the returner students move in. So there's no like territory you have to worry about going into or avoiding because the returners are here. So it gives you free reign of campus, which is great. If you're a commuter student, you just start your commuter journey a couple days earlier, and we have you come for all of these days because we really pack it full of all of the info you need to be successful. If you're a transfer student, we actually have a transfer specific track, and you'll get emailed about it once you either deposit or after registration launches. Again, that's going to be in about 2 or 3 weeks for orientation registration. Okay, so with student experience, that's orientation specific, but with student experience, we have a lot that you can get involved in outside of just attending orientation. You can apply to be an orientation leader. So once you go through the transition, you can see what works or what doesn't, because we're super open to feedback. If it didn't work for you, it probably doesn't work for every student. And so we want to learn how we can make it better for the students who come next year. But also you can be a part of a student club or organization, and we have a student org fair at the beginning of every semester, so you can learn what organizations are meeting and when and what they do. You can also meet more members of the Student Experience Center through all of our events. Katherine will talk to you about career fairs in a little bit, but we also have like drop-in hours for both offices. We have trainings, we have opportunities for leadership development. It's really an endless opportunity for extracurricular outside skill building in our center. Additionally, we oversee some honor societies. And so these Alpha Lambda Delta and Tau Sigma are two honor societies that are only open and available to either Alpha Lambda Delta, a first-time, first-year honor society, or Tau Sigma, which is a transfer student honor society. So if you're transferring in your first semester and you get a 3.5 GPA or higher, or if you're a new student in your first semester and you get a 3.5 GPA or higher, you get invited into these honor societies. And both of which provide you for a one-time fee. You get like a membership fee. You get lifetime membership to academic resources, professional resources, career resources, networking, and you get to meet people who are part of the organization across the countries, which is really great for skill building and networking and developing yourself into the career world after college. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit onto the other side of things. I have an awesome dual role job where I get to do orientation and student activities. So here's a list of our current clubs and organizations, and this was updated just last week. So feel free to take a picture of it if it's a lot now. You can take a picture, screen grab, and then you can come back and look at it later, or you can check it out on our Instagram or our website. Our Instagram is at FSU Student Experience. We have a lot, which is really exciting. We pretty much have anything you want. It's also super easy to get involved. There's tons of studies that show that extra involvement inside of your college experience actually helps alleviate stress, and it makes it more enjoyable and balanced. You get to build the community you want to be in. So by you choosing what you want to partake in, you get to fine-tune what your experience looks like. And then if you get involved, you can have leadership development and get skills on your resume, and the Career Center will work with Career Development will work with you about getting all of those into a career-ready presentation for yourself to present to any employer you may want to work with in the future. But also it's proven that students who do get involved earlier in their college experience, and so what that really means is students who lean into the change and the transition just a little quicker are more likely to find their community and find a good fit in the community they're joining. Plus also it's just really fun. Like we really do a lot of events and we really try to make it enjoyable for all of you. Super easy to get involved. Like I mentioned, we have an organization fair where every org goes to, so you can walk the tables, you can hear their missions, their elevator pitches, what they do, when they meet, how they do it. You can join a club then, but you can also join a club anytime. Clubs tend to go to conferences, they take trips to fairs, they take field trips over to New York. We've had students go to the Red Sox, the Celtics, the Bruins. People went to Comic-Con last year. We've had a Renaissance Fair group go before, tons of places. I think we visit New York a few times a year too. So there's tons of ways you can get involved. And plus it's not just local. We try to get you to experience what you can outside of Framingham too. Like I said, we have 40 clubs to choose from, and that grows every fall. We open a club and org registration process up, and it's super easy. All you have to do is have 2 people who want to be in the same club as you, and then you meet with a program coordinator from our office to share the club goals and work on mission statements. And once you finalize those details and set some meeting times, you're officially a club. It's really not hard. We make it super easy because we really want you to be able to find your niche. And if we don't have it, we make it easy for you to make it. If you've never done it before, because it's okay if you haven't ever made a club before, it's not super common. We have a department of 4 people who are dedicated to helping with finances, event planning experience, organization and logistics, and vendor / external hiring oversight. So we make it super easy to get help to make anything you want happen. We've had concerts on campus. We closed down State Street and have a fair on like a picnic on State Street, basically. But basically we are here because if you have any type of idea of anything you want to do, we will help you bring it to life. That's specific stuff about orientation and student experience. And so I'll have you take a picture or write down these emails. If you have anything specific questions about what I've gone over, you can also write it in the chat and we'll go through it at the end. But at this time, I'm going to pass it on over to Katherine and she can share with you all more about career development.
Thanks so much, Meg. So wanted to just share with you a couple of the services that career development offers to students to help them along with their careers. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So career development is the place for students and alumni actually to come for major and career exploration, internship or job search, resume and cover letter development. We work with students with all levels of experience. Like Meg said, you can use your experience from a club or group and add that to your resume. You can use your part-time job, and we can help the student craft that so that they can eventually apply to an internship and then eventually their full-time job. We also just purchased a really exciting tool called VMock, which is an AI tool that helps students craft their resume and also practice mock interviews using AI. So the students have access to that from the moment they have a Framingham State email address. So it's a really great tool that we have as well. We can also help students with mock interviews and interview prep, graduate school preparation, and salary negotiation. Basically, any kind of question related to your job search or career, we want to help you. And students can make an appointment on Starfish, which is one of the tools that David mentioned, and they can also just drop into our office. We really try and be as accessible to students as possible to answer some of those questions that can be a little daunting as you're just starting off in your career. One of the great resources that we have, especially for freshmen or underclassmen, is the Strong Interest Inventory. And that's a 300-question assessment that students take to help determine what their interests are, what their strengths are. And this is particularly helpful for students that are not totally sure about what they want to do just yet, which is very, very common. Most students don't have a definite sense of what they want to do when they start at Framingham State. And the student can take that assessment and then meet with a career counselor to review the findings, and the counselor can kind of make some recommendations for next steps. Another great tool that we have is called Handshake, and Handshake is the most popular industry leader job board used by career centers at most universities across the country. I think there's currently over 3,000 Massachusetts-based internships on Handshake and probably like 9,000 jobs. So it's a really good resource for students when they're looking for opportunities. We also do a lot of work to flag our partner employers on Handshake to make it easy for students to find opportunities and places where Framingham State students have entered in the past, and also to make connections with alumni that currently work at those places. And we also use Handshake, and this is something I should have mentioned earlier, to invite employers to campus. We have a lot of events on campus where we invite employers to meet with students, and we have over 100 employers coming to campus every year. We have 2 big job fairs. We have an internship discovery fair, and then we also have smaller events that are more targeted towards students. And the last resource that I want to mention is we have a funding program for unpaid internships called SUII, and it offers students up to $5,000 for unpaid internships at nonprofits and smaller companies. There are a few stipulations that are on this screen, but it's a really great resource for students as they look to pursue an internship, particularly if it's unpaid. And then we also are rolling out another funding program through our center that will provide additional funding for transportation to internships and a small stipend program. So we're really excited about that and just helping all of our students pursue those internship opportunities. And that's it. This is our email address. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them. You can email careerdevelopment@framingham.edu, and you can address any email to Katherine, and I'd be happy to follow up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. We did have a few questions from tonight. The first one in the chat was about the dance team and if you have to audition for the dance team, or is it kind of like a general, everyone can participate?
Yes, super question. The dance team is one of our biggest clubs and orgs on campus. So they actually have two. They have a recreational dance team where you can go and you can join any of the nights of the week. This semester, I think they rehearse on when Monday and Tuesday nights. Last semester, it was like Monday, Wednesdays. So they usually set their schedule and keep it the same. And you can just go and join. And then they'll like group you based on what group you like dance area you like, and then if there's similar group levels. But it's not really like an audition per se, like you don't get in kind of a thing, like everyone's welcome. The other dance team they have, which is called like there's the Framingham State dance team, and then there's the Framingham State Fusion dance team, and Fusion is an audition only. So that one has to be you audition and you get invited onto it, and that's the one that traditionally has performed at the Celtics games or done outside of the university performances. And so there's two ways you can either get involved competitively or recreationally.
Great, very cool. Another one from kind of before was the kind of percentage of online versus in-person classes. I know it varies maybe for certain majors, but I don't know if David has a little more insight in that or anyone.
Sorry, what was the question again?
That's okay. So like the percentage of online versus in-person courses.
Yeah, so most courses are in person. Occasionally there will be some classes that are offered either fully remote or hybrid, but I would say, it's usually like 90% or more of classes are typically going to be in person, with options for hybrid. So one class in person, the rest of the class is online, things of that nature. So students should be aware that most of the time, they will have to be in person in class, based on the schedule.
Thank you. Another question from the chat. Do accepted students have access to scholarships? And can they apply for one prior to enrollment? If so, how? For the admission side, the scholarships that you are offered at your decision. So when you are sent your decision letter, you'll have your scholarships on there. Those are the only scholarships coming from pre-enrollment. And you can apply for outside scholarships that we would accept. But for any scholarship, it is offered pre-enrollment during that admissions process. So I hope that answered your question, Brian.
If I can just add something in about outside
Yep.
scholarships, you just want to make sure you apply for them and get notice back for them before your bill period is due. I don't know what the bill date, like the bill due date is, but you'll have to, like all students have to go through a clear process in order to start classes, which means you have to complete everything on your enrollment checklist. And one of those items is paying your bill or setting up your bill pay plan, if you're not doing it in one full payment outright. So our recommendation is always to make sure your scholarships are settled before your bill pay due date.
Absolutely. And that'll be on all the checklist, and you'll get an enrollment checklist prior to enrollment. So besides admission scholarships, are there more offered by the school? Not at this moment, not specifically, other than what we're offering for admission. But we can discuss, on a case-by-case basis about the finances, if you'd like. And my contact information is on the website if you would like to chat about that. So talking about new incoming students getting an email from Framingham State with new students getting that information. Will we be getting that kind of information during the summer? So the orientation and the checklist items, I don't know if you want to speak to that, Meg, or
Yeah, totally. So after a student deposits, in full transparency, it takes a few days for our systems to actually speak to each other. So after a student deposits, in about 3 business days at the most, I would say, depending if it's a holiday weekend or not. The student will get their FSU login, and once you get your FSU credentials and your login, you'll have full access to everything Framingham State related you would need to in order to complete everything on your checklist. Super important to note, and I know everyone, if you're not actively listening, I'm gonna like pull you in for a minute. Your enrollment checklist as a student is tied to your enrollment portal, like your application portal. So when you get your FSU credentials, you're not using those to log in for your enrollment checklist. You're using the login credentials you applied to Framingham State with. So just make a note that if you're using your high school email and you don't get to keep it after graduation in June, you want to make sure you transfer that over. Or you're, using an email that your whole family has access to if you're not the email savvy human in your family. Although a quick note is you will need to become email savvy because we do a lot of email communications in college. But yes, emails they're gonna come in, and I won't sugarcoat it. There can be a few, and it can start to feel overwhelming, but that's what orientation is there to help you with. And our admissions team, you all get an admissions counselor who are incredible humans and super well versed in everything that is the enrollment to matriculation process. And matriculation is a fancy word for saying degree seeking. But yes, you'll get all of this. So your enrollment checklist is tied to your application login. So keep your application login somewhere safe. And then once you see that checklist, it will give you not only links, but blurbs about what you're completing and why, and how to complete it if it has more than one step to follow. So that we really try to walk you through this process because we know it can be overwhelming and daunting and a lot at times. We try to make it as simple as possible. So that checklist is going to be kind of like the tab you want to bookmark.
Absolutely. And for those students who have already kind of committed and deposited, those emails have not started to go out yet.
No.
That is going to go out, in the next hopefully month, with all the new information and everything like that. And you'll get your login information and you'll see everything you need to lay out in the checklist. Also on your portal, there is information for your admissions counselor. And we all have meetings available that where you can schedule a Zoom meeting, you can schedule a phone call. Please use that resource. We would prefer to meet and kind of get all your questions answered. Okay, so please use that resource. And again, those emails should be coming out in the next month, so you can start that enrollment process.